Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.
Well, on the 1st of February 2024, Ireland's deposit return scheme will be fully operational. Return is designed to incentivise consumers to help Ireland to meet its recycling targets, although mass buy-in from the public will be critical to its success. Niamh Kelly is the Head of Marketing and Communications at Return, and she joins us now to tell us how the scheme will work for both consumers and retailers. Niamh, start by telling us what Return is all about.
Good morning, Karl. Thanks for having me on. I'll tell you, Karl, it's a very simple concept that has proved very, very successful abroad. It's all about the circular economy and valuing our resources. So let's say our PET plastic bottles, they're your normal drinks bottles where you buy the plastic bottles and cans. And what we want people to do is bring those back because they're very valuable. So from the 1st of February onwards, if you see a Return logo on any bottle or can, you will actually pay a small deposit that's fully refundable when you bring it back to shops and supermarkets all over the country.
And tell me about this deposit. How much is it?
The smaller bottles, your standard bottle between 150 mils and 500 mils, you'll pay an extra 15 cents. And for over 500 mils and up to 3 litres, you'll pay an additional 25 cents. And again, Karl, that's fully refundable once you return the bottle.
What materials can be returned?
Okay, well, there's a couple of options for the return machine, as you said, the reverse vending machine, or some retailers may opt to actually take it back over the counter. As I said, it's those plastic bottles. They're a really good quality, so we want them back. And then aluminium and steel cans.
And what research has been conducted by Return in order to prepare for its launch next year?
There's a lot of research and there's a lot of work that goes into this. We've talked to, there's, I think at this stage, 14 schemes in Europe. Believe it or not, this has been running in Norway since the late 90s. It was introduced in Germany in the early 2000s. So it's a huge amount of evidence to support how good this is as a scheme to increase recycling rates in every country. But we've learned from them what works and what doesn't work and how to actually implement it and get consumers to buy in and to actually engage and see this as very valuable. Because, again, I keep going back to, I think one of the things I learned early on about this scheme is that if you recycle a plastic bottle, that's the equivalent of saving enough energy to power a 60-watt bulb for 8 hours. So, you know, if we can look at a bottle as how much energy that saves, it just makes it a lot more practical.
And is the financial incentive sufficient to gain public support for this initiative?
We hope so. We've tried to present it, Karl, as something that isn't, you know, adverse to people, that it isn't too much. But we also need it to be enough of an incentive that people will bring it back. So the 15 cent for the 150 to 500 mils, if people are buying multi-packs, that will be, you know, if you have your 6-pack or your 12-pack, it will add up. The 25 cent for the larger one, and that is a larger container. I hope that it will be, but we will have to gauge that as the system is launched. And again, we did look at other countries and the type of deposits they were implementing.
It actually comes into force from the 1st of February 2024, but there is a transitionary period. Talk to us about that.
Yes, Karl, that's really, again, from a practical point of view. We have a lot of producers and retailers who've been absolutely fantastic in the last 12, 18 months in engaging with us and collaborating and getting prepared for this launch. But come the 1st of February, what we will be doing is we will be introducing the bottles with the Return logo, but to prevent waste and to allow retailers to sell through all of the stock that they have on the shelves, there will still be some non-logo stock on the shelf. So I think for your listeners and for consumers in general, what we want to get across is that if you see the Return logo on a bottle or can, you will be charged a deposit. But if you don't see it on the bottle and can, you won't. And again, another thing is you don't need to save your bottles and cans at this stage, because it's only when you see a Return logo and you pay a deposit that you will be refunded that deposit back.
How many retailers have signed up for the return deposit return scheme to date?
Well, we've over 3,000 at the moment, and they're coming in thick and fast all the time. I would say there's been a great response from the large to the small all over the country. I'm delighted to say that our collections partner, LPP, have been all over the country mapping out the routes. We've had great support from government and from the department in particular in getting the messaging out nationally to the local authorities as well, so that they're involved in this whole project. So really, it's been a really good collaborative effort, and we're really looking forward to seeing it going live nationwide.
Are there any exemptions in place for retailers under a certain size?
There are 3 options for retailers. So what we did is we considered the smaller retailer, so those that are under 250 square metres. They must register with the scheme, but then they can apply for what's called a take-back exemption. And that means that although they are selling return logo drinks containers, that they don't need to take them back. If they do decide they want to take them back, they most certainly are more than welcome to do that. And then they have 2 options from which to decide. And that is, the first option is they can take them over manually over the counter, and Return will provide them with bags and tags to take them back in. And the other option is they can buy or lease what's called a reverse vending machine. And this machine will actually take back the containers automatically, and the consumer will be issued with a voucher that they can bring to the till, and they can either use it against the store purchase or they can get their money back.
And I'm conscious that this is a big change both for consumers and also for retailers. And I'm interested to find out how this scheme actually works from a retailer's perspective, because of course this particular machine takes up floor space. There could be construction costs associated with it, the purchase or the lease of the machine itself. And then of course you have the energy costs and everything else. So how does it work from that perspective?
Well, every retailer, if they have a reverse vending machine or if they take back over the counter, is paid what's called a handling fee. So for every container that retailer takes back in, they will get a certain fee if it's through a reverse vending machine, or they will get a certain fee when it's over the counter. And this is calculated according to best practice internationally, but also it takes into account everything like floor space, energy costs, inflation, and all of that handling fee has been independently reviewed, and the calculations have been verified in that respect. We do also have financial supports for those who may come in under $250,000 per year in returns. So if a retailer comes in under $250,000, they have the option to apply for financial support that is up to $6,000 over 3 years.
Niamh, what targets has Return set for itself?
Overall, the deposit return scheme was set up to meet EU recycling targets, and those recycling targets are 77% by 2025 and 90% by 2029. Now, at the moment, Karl, we're kind of in around the early 60s for recycling. So we've a good bit of work to do, but judging on other international schemes, this should actually really, really work. They've been very successful. They're in the 80s and 90s within 3 or 4 years. So we're hoping to replicate that, and really we're setting ourselves up to be the best European scheme.
And of course, some will say that in order to be able to change consumer behaviour and patterns, there could be a need for, as well as the carrot, maybe a stick approach as well. Have you seen that being applied in other countries?
Not really, to be honest, Karl. We have found with our own scheme, we have found the collaboration absolutely excellent. There is a willingness and there is a cooperation between producers, retailers, government departments and stakeholders across the board to actually make this work, because as a circular economy project, it's very practical and there are very practical benefits. You can see them everywhere, from a community where, tidy towns will be looking at a cleaner environment. We're looking ahead, and all of our consumer research shows that families and young people are a lot more conscious of what they use and how they recycle and reuse. So we really are pushing an open door.
Niamh, I will leave the last comment to yourself this morning in terms of reaching out to retailers to encourage them to get involved.
I would really encourage them to register as quickly as possible. As I said, Karl, it is a brilliant initiative. It's very practical. We are here to help and we are here to provide support. There is a legal obligation for all retailers to register, but once you actually register with us, then you can look at options after that. So please get in touch, go on the website or give us a call and we'd be delighted to help.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Niamh Kelly, Head of Marketing and Communications at Return, and we hope that this scheme will enjoy the success which other European countries have achieved to date.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick.